Chapter 37. Lessons from the English. Paris, July 1791. "You can't just show up at her house like that," the lawyer said firmly. "It isn't her house, it's mine," Thomas snapped back. The gendarme appeared to disagree. "I need to get into my father's study. My family's freedom could depend on it. Have you not heard what's happening in Saint-Domingue? It's become a war zone. My own mother was forced to serve in an army camp. My own mother!" Thomas' voice cracked slightly, but he didn't care. Fury burned through him as he paced the cramped office, his boots bombarding the wooden floor like a war drum. "I'm here for you, Thomas Alexandre," the lawyer said evenly. "But this rash behavior is far more likely to harm your case than help it." "I need that key back." Thomas thrust out his hand. "You know I can't give it to you." "Why? You say the house is mine." "We've only partially established that," the lawyer replied, his calmness infuriatingly unbreakable. Thomas threw up his hands with a bitter laugh. "Oh, look, the white man is holding hostage the black man's property. That's a story we've never heard before." "That isn't what's happening," the lawyer snapped back, his patience thinning. "Then why won't you give me the damn key?" "Because it's obvious you're about to do something idiotic if I do. I want you to win this case, not sabotage it before it even reaches the magistrate." Thomas let out a low growl of frustration before storming out, slamming the door behind him. The warm morning sun slapped his face as he stepped onto the street. He took the stairs 2 at a time, his body pulsing with anger. That stupid lawyer doesn't understand. No one does. Thomas reached the last step and paused, gripping the railing so tightly his knuckles paled. Or maybe... He clenched his jaw, staring out at the bustling street ahead. Life moved on, indifferent to his rage. He felt his resolve crumbling under the weight of a dependency that irritated him more than any of it. The lawyer does understand, Thomas admitted to himself bitterly. He knows exactly what's at stake. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. He felt his chest tighten with a raw, exhausted grief. His mother's face flickered across his mind. Marie-Louise's, too. If his pride and impatience became the reason either of them had to suffer longer, he would never forgive himself. He closed his eyes, exhaled slowly, and loosened his grip on the railing. "Fuck," he muttered under his breath. With heavy steps, he turned back around and began climbing the stairs, each step feeling steeper than the last. "I'm sorry," Thomas said in a low voice as he opened the door. "Apology accepted," the lawyer shrugged lightly. "Your reaction was far from the worst I've seen. It comes with the profession." Thomas pressed his lips together, weighing his next words. "Supposing you're right about all of this." "I am," the lawyer cut in flatly. "Fine. Then what are your thoughts on who technically controls my mother and sister's papers?" The lawyer leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "Well, based on what you've told me, with the Maubiers siphoning funds from the plantation after your father's death, their claims of ownership could be spun as criminal. Theft, fraud, both would undermine any argument they might make for legal possession." Thomas felt his stomach twist. "So, what does that actually mean?" "In my professional opinion," the lawyer continued, ignoring the interruption, "the papers themselves matter less than their character as thieves. My suggestion is that you pursue larceny charges against them and focus on securing your inheritance here in France. If those charges stick, the court will prioritize your rightful claims to the estate's properties and profits, which, in theory, includes your family. Thomas went cold. Does that mean, technically, they're already free? That's presumptuous, the lawyer replied cautiously. Legally, I'm arguing that you likely already own your mother and sisters, but until we settle things with Marie Hertou, the claim remains tenuous. I could never own anyone, Thomas snapped in disgust, especially my own family. Apologies, Corporal. I didn't mean it that way. I'm just trying to help you understand the legal framework we're working with, the lawyer said evenly. Thomas sighed. All I need is to free them and finally get them to safety in Vieille-Cotterêts. The lawyer's gaze sharpened. Are you sure that's all you need? Of course it is, Thomas retorted hotly. The lawyer raised an eyebrow and leaned forward. All right, then. I have an idea, though I doubt you will like it. Thomas narrowed his eyes warily. I'm listening. Did you think about what I said last time? About the risk of accepting your inheritance right now? I suppose, Thomas muttered, staring at the cluttered desk between them. I've been doing this job for a long time, the lawyer continued. I've seen widows like Madame Hertou more times than I can count. They're predictable. They want wealth and comfort but have little understanding of what they truly possess or where the real value of their case can be found. Given enough time, money, and energy, you will likely win this full case. Every penny. However, the courts aren't prioritizing land disputes of the nobility these days. This could take years, and at the rate things are going, that house may not even be standing when it's over. It was an irritating observation, but likely a true one. Then what can we do? Thomas asked brusquely. Well, you could settle. Give her the city house and keep the one in Saint-Domingue for yourself with all property therein, which would include anyone enslaved on it, the lawyer said deliberately. I understand offering her a piece of the inheritance to speed things up, but I like the city house. I don't ever picture myself moving back to the colonies. What about the country estate? Actually, I like that one. I guess the city house is preferable. Let me cut you off there, the lawyer interjected. Your father sold the country estate years ago. It isn't on the table. He did? When? Not long before he died. He needed money. He was never good with managing finances. Spent more than he had. That must have been when Lepeau moved back down to the city. He never told me, Thomas muttered under his breath. You're avoiding my question, Thomas Alexandre. I know you understand what I'm suggesting. I believe you should offer her the city house. I think she will accept. Doesn't that feel extreme? Thomas asked. We are living in extreme times. This revolution? The lawyer paused, choosing his next words carefully. Do you truly believe the king will survive this? I don't know. After his flight to Varennes, he's basically a prisoner, but... And if he goes down, don't you think his loyal nobles will as well? The lawyer pressed. Thomas grumbled in frustrated agreement. What makes you so certain she'll agree? In my experience, people comfortable in their wealth who have the means of gratifying every wish know not what is the real happiness of life, just as those who have been tossed on the stormy waters of the ocean on a few frail planks can alone realize the blessings of fair weather. And you think that so-called fair weather is my option to walk away from my title? Thomas asked dryly. I have a hunch, the lawyer nodded slowly. History can tell us quite a bit if we are brave enough to see it clearly. Thomas squinted his eyes. What history tells you the king is going to meet his end before this is through? Well, the British, for one. When their king was stubborn and could not see the needs of the people, and the people were prepared to fight back. You're talking about Charles I, Thomas mumbled, recalling his history classes at the Académie. The lawyer raised his eyebrows and shrugged. Charles didn't bend to Parliament, the lawyer continued, and it cost him his head. Do you really think that King Louis is all that different? Probably not, Thomas conceded quietly. He thought of the letter Hubert had found in the king's chambers on the night he ran. The man is obstinate as hell. He will never kneel to the assembly, nor the revolution. Then it can only end one way for him, can't it? The lawyer said softly. And just like with the English cavaliers, so too may end the nobility. You want to end the monarchy completely? Thomas asked, voice tight. I didn't say that, the lawyer replied calmly. I'm just predicting that it may end itself. Do you wish it to end? I know well enough that telling people my beliefs can get me killed, Thomas replied coldly. Then what have you noticed? You've been patrolling these streets for long enough to make simple observations. Thomas groaned. You scholars. You're in communication with the devil. I'm not a scholar, I'm a lawyer. Same difference, Thomas shot back irritably. Would the devil be trying to save your hide? Is that what you're calling this? Legal salvation from my own nobility? Thomas scoffed. Only if my observations match your own. But I need a definitive answer from you, Monsieur Marquis, the lawyer said, slightly sarcastically. Thomas fell silent for a moment, thinking of the chanting crowds outside the Palais Royal. I'll admit, the people outnumber the nobles, and they aren't friendly towards them. But it's not like the Assembly is truly listening to the people either. The Assembly holds the power right now. Many of their ranks are still nobility, even the Marquis de Lafayette. Ah, our old national hero. A marquis like you. Your boss, correct? Thomas nodded apprehensively. But did you see Danton's assembly speech the other day? I heard about it, Thomas said smugly. I have a copy if you need it. They were distributing pamphlets with the text in the square that day. The lawyer rummaged under a pile on his desk and pulled out a thin sheet. God bless the printing press. Thomas leaned over, scanning the words. Yes, here, the lawyer said, pointing. And you, Monsieur Lafayette? You who have recently guaranteed the person of the king in this assembly on pain of losing your head. Are you here to pay your debt? You swore the king would not leave. Either you sold out your country, or you are stupid for having made a promise for a person you could not trust. Do you really want to be great? Become a simple citizen again, and stop helping the French people. I know, Thomas said quietly, his eyes still tracing the text. Last night, an armed mob attacked Lafayette's house. Marat is calling for his head. Lafayette was a hero and a revolutionary, but the people are turning on him because he has become, ironically, too stuck in his noble, monarchical modus operandi. And because he lost the king, Thomas added bitterly. Varennes certainly didn't help. So, if Louis is Charles I, then is Danton our Cromwell, Thomas asked, folding the paper with care. Wasn't Cromwell a tyrant in his own right? The lawyer asked. That is the problem, isn't it? Thomas replied softly. But one for another day. Today, we have to deal with our cavalier. Malheureux, the lawyer said decisively. Thomas nodded begrudgingly. Does this mean you agree? The lawyer asked. It's an intriguing angle, Thomas replied. It's a gamble. I could lose everything. Everything except your family, and that is what you truly need back. The lawyer leaned forward, lowering his voice. I don't think Madame Retu is perceptive enough to see what is happening around her. Most nobles can't identify what's staring them in the face, and they certainly don't have the courage to examine history to inform them what is likely to happen next. Thomas exhaled heavily. I don't know if I should be excited or terrified by your predictions. Maybe both, the lawyer replied with a faint smile. Thomas sighed. All right, I accept your angle. She keeps it all but releases my family and the colonial land. She can even keep my title. Well, technically your title ended with the abolition of the nobility. Like a lemon in a wound, Thomas said with irritation. The lawyer chuckled. There you have it. You finally stumped me. I don't know that reference. Oh, it's a fruit in the colonies, Thomas said. Stings like mad if it gets in even the smallest cut. He rose, brushing off his coat. I need to get back to my patrol. Lafayette is expecting me, and despite everything, I owe that man my loyalty. I'll draft the proposal and let you know what she says, the lawyer replied. Thomas thanked him, though with thinly veiled resentment, and stepped out into the heavy summer air. As he mounted his saddle, anger simmered beneath his ribs. This agreement would feel like an effortless victory to Marie Retu, a bargain she didn't even have to fight for. He hated giving her that satisfaction. Part of him raged at himself for conceding so easily, for letting her win yet again. But deeper still, beyond his anger and frustration, was a quiet truth he didn't want to admit. A part of him just wanted the easy money. Even knowing the risks, he longed for the simplicity of wealth without this endless struggle. He bit his lips and forced himself to think more pragmatically. This arrangement would finally secure his family's freedom. That should bring relief. But instead, all he felt was the sting of knowing how high the price remained, even if every word the lawyer said held true. France had turned against the king and the nobility even further since the monarch's failed escape. The National Assembly and the public were fracturing into irreconcilable factions. A group called the Cordelier Club was now loudly pushing for France to become a true republic, free from its monarchical ties. Though the Assembly had already punished the king by stripping away his remaining power, it simply wasn't enough for many. Treason for anyone else would carry a far harsher punishment. Why did the king merely get a metaphorical slap on the wrist? Pain wasn't helping control that sentiment either, much to Lafayette's frustration. He kept publishing papers declaring that the king's escape was essentially a self-abdication from the throne. Paine even called on the people to hold a referendum to determine how the government should function next, in absentia of their monarch. A true call for liberty. But all of it combined into chaos at every level, from the streets to the chambers of government, and no one had the slightest inclination of how to solve the problems they were complicit in creating. Each day left Thomas exhausted from the endless efforts to control the rabble. Riots erupted daily. Statues of past kings toppled into the filthy streets, while loyal monarchists and fervent republicans brawled in taverns and alleyways. and for whatever reason, it all fell to the National Guard to monitor. Thomas worked nearly 18 hours each day, yet it never felt like enough. On top of everything, a new petition loomed that threatened to bring even greater bedlam. Danton and several members of the Cordelier Club had published a petition to abolish the monarchy entirely. It wasn't a surprising proposition at this point. The streets already roared with that sentiment. Yet, when he brought it before the Assembly, Lafayette, Bailly, and other members of the Society of 1789 insisted that simply removing the king was short-sighted and reactionary. France was too volatile, and attempts to form a republic thus far had been unsuccessful. As they said, the Assembly had been meeting for ages and had yet to even agree on a simple constitution. In truth, the Assembly had to become blind to the reality in the streets. Though the petition was roundly rejected inside the chambers, Danton and his Cordeliers refused to yield. They called for a meeting to rally the people to their cause and prove the king's days were over, not by decree of the few and powerful, but because the people themselves demanded it. The Assembly clung desperately to their debates over semantics and wording on a silly piece of parchment. But to the people, what worth was a constitution when there was no bread for their families? As Thomas rode down the Rue Saint-Honoré on his way back to the military offices, he glanced around at the bustling street. Per usual, protesters surrounded both the Palais Royal and the Tuileries, shouting insults at the king. Pamphleteers thrust leaflets into passing hands. Orators thundered from atop crates on street corners, though one man was merely raving about the apocalypse. An old woman planted yet another Liberty tree along the road. There were already 4 such trees nearby, mostly in front of l'Église Saint-Roch. The trees were draped in red, white, and blue, with words like "Death to the King" and "Equality" carved in their trunks, in addition to some wayward initials from mischievous youth. Thomas noticed a man plastering posters for Danton's petition on the door of the church and on the lamp posts. The thunder of hooves broke his trance. A soldier tore down the street at full gallop, scattering pedestrians as he rode straight toward Thomas. "Lafayette needs to see you urgently," he shouted, barely even stopping long enough to see if Thomas understood his words. Thomas groaned. "I'm so tired of everything being urgent all the time," he muttered to his horse. Then he clicked his heels and urged his steed towards Lafayette's office. When he arrived, Lafayette thrust a copy of the Ironmouth newspaper into his hands. "Have you seen this?" Lafayette demanded. "I saw the pamphlets while on patrol earlier," Thomas murmured. Lafayette snatched the paper back. "It's in 2 days, at the altar of the fatherland, no less." Thomas knew better than to offer an opinion on the matter. Lafayette paced the room. "This is a blatant slap at the Assembly and everything we have worked for. This uneducated rebel does not understand what we are trying to do here. It can't just be forced. These are delicate negotiations. We are crafting the foundations of a new house, but the people would rather set fire to the scaffolding before the roof is even in place." Lafayette exhaled sharply. "I'm going to ask Bailly to institute martial law." "Martial law, sir? Are you sure that is wise?" "Do you question me, Dumas?" Lafayette shot back angrily. "Never, sir," Thomas responded quietly. "You think I'm being foolish. I know what I am doing." Lafayette stared him down, daring him to disagree. "Of course you do, sir," Thomas said, though he could not bring himself to meet Lafayette's eyes. "I need you to be ready. Do not hold back." France will need your courage and your resolve more than ever. The people will depend on our wisdom, our might, and our forethought, even if they do not know it yet. I won't let you down, Thomas replied. He tried to sound confident, but a hollow ache had formed in his chest. He wanted to tell Lafayette that this was madness, that instituting martial law against his own people would only breed hatred, not unity, that it wasn't scaffolding they were setting ablaze, but the very foundation they claimed to build upon. But he didn't say any of it. He couldn't. Lafayette had raised him up when society wanted to keep him invisible. Thomas would never betray that loyalty, not with words nor with actions. Even now, as every instinct in his body screamed that this was the wrong path, he knew he would follow where Lafayette led. But as he turned to leave the room, a grim certainty weighed heavy in his gut. This would not end in order or peace. It would end in blood.